Welcome to the Zeducation podcast, where it's all about helping people and organizations unleash their greatness. Hosted by me, Pasifika Haufano, and my brother,
that's me, Kalolo Haufano.
The Zeducation podcast features lively discussions.
When they share it, you see that they're beginning to feel empowered.
My heart, it's full of pride for me to be at Maitai Samoa.
As well as tips on leadership and business by some of the top minds and influencers around the world.
You don't necessarily need a degree these days. There's so many pathways to success.
Welcome to the Zeducation podcast. So welcome to the Zeducation podcast, the go-to podcast for stories and advice that inspire and empower professional and personal growth. In this special episode, we're excited to welcome John Pulu, a distinguished figure in media known for amplifying Pasifika voices and stories. John's academic and professional journey, beginning with a communication studies degree from AUT University, has led him to become a pivotal part of the Tagata Pasifika team. Today, alongside exploring the crucial theme of Pasifika voices in media, John will share invaluable insights into building confidence and mastering the art of being in front of the camera. So join us as we delve into a conversation filled with actionable tips for boosting your confidence, overcoming camera shyness, and making an impact through powerful storytelling. This episode is a must listen for aspiring journalists, storytellers, and anyone eager to leave a mark in the media landscape while staying true to their cultural identity. Welcome to our show, brother. How are you doing today?
Saipe, malo lele. Whawhetai ke eki he mau e whainga maari ko ni. I'm very, very honored. And what an introduction. That's basically my story. No one needs to hear anything else. But absolutely grateful for this opportunity, and congratulations on you and your team for setting up something like this. You know, like myself, I enjoy storytelling, and I hope I won't put anyone to sleep with my next few words. But malo again for this opportunity.
Oh, we are privileged to have you. It's so fun. I've been watching and following you for a while now, and the thing that you do.
Obviously, got nothing else to do.
Oh, I love it. I love it. But hey, it's our privilege to have you here, Doko. Thank you so much for your time. Before we get into the swing of things, please share something interesting about yourself.
I'm still trying to speak the English language is what I'm trying to do. No, I'm kidding. I guess a little bit about myself when I'm not, in the media or doing the work that I'm very grateful to do. I enjoy cycling, road cycling. So this year I'm hoping to do the around Lake Taupo cycling challenge, which is 160 kilometers of cycling. Wow. And I will be crying every moment as I cycle. But I enjoy a bit of downtime and at cycling. And I do try and do a bit of fitness to, keep fit and active, especially as I'm getting older. But I love my cycling.
I love that. Yeah, well, it's more than just cycling and I guess losing weight. It's the whole fitness and well-being aspect that you talked about. It's awesome. Oh, yeah. Well, hey, let's get right into it.
Yes.
How did you discover your calling in the media world? And tell us about the strong focus on uplifting Pasifika voices.
Oh yeah, malo pito once again. As they say, in the beginning of time. I was born in Tonga, came here to Aotearoa, and it wasn't until I was at Otahuhu College. This was a time where, we used to just crack a few jokes about, being Pacific, but it got to a point where it just kind of disappointed me because that was how we were reflected in the media. It was like bad stereotypes and I was a little bit upset. I wasn't a little bit, I was upset about it. Our people were being portrayed as, were doing all the bad things. But I believe that, I know what it's like to be Pasifika in this new, country, and we work hard. And of course, there are times that some people make mistakes, but I wanted to do something to uplift our community. So the only program on television at the time that was telling positive Pacific stories and advocating for Pasifika community was Tagata Pasifika. That was my dream job. So, I basically did a work experience at Otahuhu College, got to go to TV and Z, leaving South Auckland to go into the city to Television New Zealand or TVNZ and kind of do some work experience with Tagata Pasifika. And I loved it. You know, my love for storytelling just grew even more and more, you know, seeing the people that help tell our stories. And yeah, that basically was the light bulb moment for me, was looking at something that I guess we all came here to, you know, find new opportunities. And I wanted to make sure that we were put in a better light, you know, rather than what was already in the media. Such programs as, you know, Police 10-7, you know, there's other motorway patrol, and, you know, we're always made fun of. So I just wanted to, you know, look at another avenue, and that avenue was Tagata Pasifika. So yeah, that basically in a nutshell just wraps up my love and passion for storytelling, and then got into broadcasting.
Yeah, wow. That is so cool. And I can see how that is, in a way, like a calling for yourself. It started with this desire and this place in your heart to make a difference. I guess put a more positive narrative for our Pasifika people. And I can really say that that's what you're actually doing right now. Wow. I mean, when I think of 531 PI, I kind of see your face all the time. You're just out there, which is great. And I love that you're living up to that calling. So you got this passion for Pasifika as well, which I really love. Yeah. And that's part of your inspiration. Tell us a little bit about that. How, in terms of Pasifika culture, how have you embraced that in your line of work? Maybe give some tips for other people how they can do that in their mahi.
Well, we are beautiful Pasifika people, you know, and people should never forget that, you know, we all migrated from the Pacific to Aotearoa for many reasons. And sometimes when we move into a new Western or, you know, a foreign place, you know, we may kind of lose a little bit of ourselves, you know, we adopt new ways and whatnot. But I think something that will never change is our identity. No matter where you go in the world, you know, if you're here in Aotearoa, if you go to, you know, other foreign countries in Europe and whatnot, you'll never be, you know, less Tongan because you'll always be a Pasifika person. And I think that's important, you know, nowadays, especially because there's so many of us now living overseas. You know, there's so many Tongans and other Samoans who are now overseas. So yeah, you know, be proud of who they are, and that's something that I really cherish. You know, being a Pasifika person, and I'm so honoured that I'm able to be who I am and be proud of my Pasifika roots with the work that I do. And I do hope that the program that I work on, Tagata Pasifika, Radio 531 PI, that we kind of embrace and also show, it's cool to be Pasifika here, and diversity is such a beautiful thing. And that's another thing I love about Aotearoa. You know, it sets us apart from all the other ethnicities that are here in New Zealand. You know, we can definitely tell a Tongan because they're wearing a ta'avala or a kie. And I think it's so beautiful. And then we learn as well, you know, I share a little bit about my culture with non-Pasifika and others. And, you know, I learn from others as well what it's like where they're from. So, I think it's just, you know, we're gifted with this, you know, ethnicity. You know, we've been given this koloa, our language, our stories, and why not be proud of it and embrace it and use it in the various platforms that we have or various work or callings that we're now currently in. So I'm just thankful that I'm able to do this, you know, using a very powerful medium like television and radio. And very, very proud. And I hope others as well are inspired and, you know, very proud of their Pasifika roots. Because I think going forward as well, because there's so many of us now living abroad, it is so vital that we hold on to, especially our language. Because you know what it's like, you know, we're both Tongans, but we're, you know, conversing in English. I just hope people can also be multilingual, you know, and converse between the two. And I'm impressed with your Tongan as well, by the way. I heard you speaking. But going forward, it's important that we absolutely get our youth on board, you know, to protect and preserve our language and our cultural values.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said there, John, around, you know, we need to embrace it, but it starts with knowing and understanding where we're from, our cultural identity, and also embracing it, being proud of it, you know, not being whakamā or shying away from it. I guess, can I ask this question? I guess in terms of Pasifika cultural values, how can that be a superpower in the workplace? How can your cultural identity and your values be a superpower in the workplace?
Oh, yeah. I'll use our Tongan values. We have our 4 pillars of things like whakapa'apa, humility, lototo. I think those are values that every Tongan already inherit, when they're born. And I think these are just, great values that you can take with you anywhere. When we're taught at home about, humility, putting others first, humbling yourself and things like that, respect for apa. And I think that's another important value, which I also admire in other people as well. They're respectful, and I think, that sets us apart from, other cultures. But even I think now moving forward, diversity, people are looking for people who are bilingual, or multilingual. And it's a skill as well, but I think you can build on that, especially, different roles now. They want people who can, communicate in various languages. And what a beautiful thing that we're able to converse in many languages. So I think with people who already inherit, these skills or language skills, they can definitely use it, not just here in New Zealand, but, in other ways to help them and their families. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. I definitely agree with that. Understanding what your values are. And I love that you share the Tongan values and, what does that look like at home, but also what does that look like in the workplace? It's one and the same, eh?
And it is hard for our people, especially I found it, we're Tongan at home. And then when we walk out the door, we go into the Western world, lefa pālangi, we speak in English. I try my best, to carry what I was taught at home to do the same, with everywhere I go, still hold on to those values of mahuinga kia taua that are important to us, which are the 4 pillars of our language, of our Tongan culture. And I love that, I'm sure all the other, indigenous cultures have their own set of values and whatnot. But I think it's such an awesome thing that, it's already part of us when we're born as Tongans.
Iyo. And your values are a part of who you are, eh? And if you stay true to your values, you feel more authentic and you feel confident because you're staying true to who you are. You're not trying to pretend to be someone else. I love that. Look, you work in the media, that's your job.
Wow.
Pretty much in another way, it's your life, I see you all there all the time. I'm like, man, does this guy even have a break? But
this is my break.
This is your break right now. I love that. Well, hey, you can come and have a break here anytime you want. Look, you hear a lot of stories. Which is probably one of the cool things about your job, being out there in the community, hearing these great stories, and then I guess amplifying it and sharing it with the wider community. Tell us about one story that's really touched your heart and made waves for you.
I always, think back to one of the early stories. This was one of the stories that I was like, this is why I'm meant to be here. It's advocating for those who don't have a voice that's loud enough, especially when they're in a hard or going through hardship. And it's the scenario of a family living in a garage in South Auckland. And it's been a long time they've been applying, trying to get into a proper home. And, the young kids are sick. And this was early on in my career, when I did this story. And I thought, this is why I'm meant to be here. I love, stories about culture and language preservation. But I think, using the media in the right way to also empower and advocate the voices that are, not usually heard. And our community, there's many in our community, especially those who are, going through difficult times, struggling, living here in a different community. And that was one of the stories, helping this particular family. And I was like, this is my calling. This is why, I was tasked or, blessed with this role to, help be a voice, and it's funny when we did the story, they said, we've been going to housing to ask for a house, but we haven't had any luck. And so when I got in touch, the housing people were like, we're just finishing up there. I was like, now you're just wrapping it up. They're saying, we were just, about to put them in a house. So I think, when we have this opportunity to be the voice and, advocate for our communities. Use it wisely, because you can, use our stories can influence, with the media. When you put it out there, there's so many viewers and ears and people who tune in. So you can really, make a difference, when we're sharing these particular stories. And that's still one that I'll always remember. But, on the other hand, you get to do amazing, incredible stories. Like just last year, I recorded a Zoom interview with Iam Tongi, the first Pacific person to win American Idol. And people are like, how did you get that interview? Because I was the only one, out of America who got the interview. And I was like, I just asked his uncle on Facebook. And so I went through the Tongan way of going, hey, Toko, do you think Ian will be available? And so it's moments like that, I think it's special because you're part of history. I get to go home, coronation of our king in Tonga, but also I get to go for the funerals. I, get to be there in historic moments, when there's a cyclone or some big, events that happen around the Pacific, the elections, so every moment I'm just like, malo ek, I'm able to do something that I really love and really honored, because this is my duty, my service to my community is through these stories, and it's my job to come back and relay what has happened. But yeah, no, it's truly a blessing. But every day is different, I get to, it's either a story on a medical story today, tomorrow be one on sport, so there's, and every day I tell you, brother, I'm learning every day. There's always something, and then I become an expert on this, and then an expert on this, so yeah, it's truly a blessing.
It's really humbling, and it's cool that you guys use this media, especially yourself, a platform to give a voice to our people, but also shine light on the reality of what's happening for our people. And even though it might be a difficult or a challenging, I wouldn't say a negative, but a realistic thing that's happening to our people, you guys are able to use it to turn it into something positive for our people. And I think that's what my favorite things about Tagata Pasifika, 531 PI and everything that you guys put up there, the platform, and I'm not just saying this, I think in comparison to what I see, and I consume media all the time, it's a lot more positive. It's a lot more positive, and I could tell you guys are generally using the platform to do good and to spread good and be real about it at the same time. I love that.
And we also, when the time, especially if we have some of our naughty Pasifika people who, we also have to, address that, the scams and whatnot, because it's awareness. We also use the platform to raise awareness about issues as well. And, apart from advocating for our people, we also have to do the, door knocking and hey, why are you doing this? And so, yeah, it's a very powerful medium, and I know you know what it's like, when we put out something. But I guess it's how people interpret or take the news story, because not everyone consumes the same way. But it's also important that we're balanced in terms of coverage. And we see now with the rise of various media, people can influence, various topics and whatnot. But I do hope people do their homework and look around and see the reliable sources, because now, anyone can, put up a story and, on Facebook and social media and, they can really change the angle of a story. So, I absolutely encourage people to find a reliable source of information if they're consuming media as well.
That's a really good point. Not just taking things for what it is, regardless of the media, the channel. But I guess you guys do a good job with the awareness. And I think you bring up a good point. It reminds me of an auntie and uncle. They're not just going to shop you and spoil you all the time and tell you nice things that you want to hear. Sometimes they tell you what you need to hear. You be like, hey, you got to stop playing up. Like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that. And I feel like that's pretty much what you guys do. You're the auntie and uncle that spreads awareness out of love.
It's a huge responsibility. So every story that we do, we check and double check and make, especially the facts, because like I said, we can influence, people's thinking and whatnot. And we definitely don't want to, put out incorrect information. Because you can just imagine, with what we've been through in the past, with COVID-19 and the lockdown, how important information is, and the right information to get out to our communities. So, yeah.
I love that. Let's talk about you in terms of preparing for these interviews or when you're reporting. Like, what do you do personally to get in the zone and prepare yourself to get in front of the camera?
I always remember my older brother said to me the line of, if you fail to prepare to fail. So prep, and extra prep. So always prepare, and that's something that I encourage when I go and speak to young, people who are interested in going into the industry. Okay, you're in front of the camera. Okay, people hear your voice on radio, but you have to, do the groundwork, to prepare yourself for, especially. You don't want to, out of respect for the person you're interviewing, waste their time or, so it's so important, that you prepare yourself. And that's something, I push myself to do. Always go to an interview, always know what you want, and sometimes be prepared in case the interview goes a different angle. Because sometimes you go and then they're talking about something else. I'm like, oh, actually, that's really a good point. No interview's the same, I think it's really important now, our people are more open to sharing views. But there are times where it is hard to get answers out of people, but sometimes you just need to assure them what the interview or story is about, to let them open up and share their story. Because we always just tell them, this is your story, we're not coming to alter anything, so this is your chance to share whatever you want to share with us. But it's just respect with each other, I come here and I try and be prepared, even though I was late this morning. But we're not going to talk about that.
No, we won't.
Absolutely. And know what you want out of the interview, but also make sure that, you do your homework about the person you're interviewing, because you wouldn't want to be doing the research while you're doing the interview. So you play rugby. Oh, no.
No, wrong person.
So I think that's just something that, I try and remind myself all the time as well. There are times where I'm juggling multiple stories, and it can be a bit of a juggling act. But I try my best to go through each one and do my best. Yeah.
So the 3 Ps: preparation. So there's no such thing as being over prepared, I guess. And then what you talked about there, I guess having a contingency plan in case something doesn't go the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
So I guess that comes.
Because sometimes, because it's humans, sometimes they may say something that's totally different from what you had originally agreed on. It's just the nature, because we work with a deadline and, so just be prepared. Things may change, we find the angle of the story that we've been assigned to do, and then we go there and it's like totally different, It could be either bad or like good. It's just weighing it up, what works.
Do you mind if we go a little bit more deep into the preparation and also maybe talk about confidence? And be real. Like, people don't see this behind the camera, behind the scenes thing. Like, are you always confident? If not, what do you do to get more confidence?
I'm excited every story that I get to do. Every story, like I said, it's the preparation, and I am just honored, firstly, to be doing the job, that, we're able to do. But, I guess everyone has their own way of, psyching themselves up. But if you're in it for the right reason, then I know you will, have no trouble or have no problem with, getting yourself ready for the role. But in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, why are we doing this story? And that just reminds me, it's like, yep, we're doing it because this family needs this. We're doing this story because we need to raise awareness about this health issue. So I think that's one way to just encourage our, our listeners and viewers about, if they're wondering, if they're in the right space. I think that's one way of, I guess, remembering it's just the purpose on why they're doing it. And every day I'm just like, oh, wow, I'm talking to this person, I'm here in this country, I'm able to do something. But there are times, there are tricky stories, and if I may share with you stories that I don't like reporting on, and it's the ones that involve, passing away of. There was a time there was young Tongans who were tulo committing suicide, and it's stories like that I, you feel it's a sad story, but we have to cover it. We have to raise awareness about the issue because it was a really terrible time. And yeah, I think that's kind of the different side of the work that we do that, we get to, we have to, cover these stories. And especially when it's your own community. I've done a story on my own church. There was a building of church in Australia. And basically there was a lot of debt, and basically they've lost the church. But it was covering the issue around, when you give too much or, just looking at the way our community practice, church. And but I guess it brings out the talanoa, when we do the stories, we encourage, that it sparks conversation. So, those are some of the stories. It's important work that we have to do to address these issues, but there are times where it gets a bit tricky with stuff like that.
And I think that not many people are mindful that people like yourself, journalists and media, who do cover heavy stories like this, and I imagine, wow, I don't think about it. Like I've never thought, what's the impact that it has on the journalists when they're interviewing?
We're basically like a sponge. We take it all in. When we go, when we come and interview people, we take their story with us. And some of the times, it's mamahi. When they share their mamahi, I feel it as well. And I'm human. You have to, understand what they're going through. So there are times when it's heavy topics. I take it on board as well. But I just remember the purpose of why we're doing that story or that interview. Looking at the bigger picture. But yeah, it is like that sometimes. I was stuck in Tonga during Cyclone Gita not so long ago, and that was scary. One thing is reporting a story, but being part of the story and Tonga is totally different, and there was like a scary time. I went there for one thing to do a story on dialysis, and then they're like, oh, there's a cyclone coming. I was like, what? So I rang, the office and said, I think the story's going to change because I've been told that, a big storm's coming. And what do you know, I was stuck in one of the biggest cyclones to hit Tonga. And where I was staying, it was such a scary moment of, we all just gone into our rooms and just closed all the windows and whatnot, just, worrying about anything smashing and whatnot. But it's moments like that, it's, I guess it's, something totally different, but someone going to cover the, Ukraine and Russia war, they see it differently because they were right there, they smell the air, they feel, what it's like to be on the ground. So yeah, it's always different when people see the story. But there are moments I'm like, man, if only people knew. We woke up early hours to go and get a one shot, or we stayed up or waited for an interview that they didn't give us until later on in the day. So yeah, there are moments. People see the final cut of the story, but there are some funny moments as well.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, people at home, even myself, just comfortably lying in my bed, couch, or maybe even sitting on the toilet watching the news. But little do we know, these people, the things that they go through just to get the stories and to report it. It's crazy. I can imagine. I
want to acknowledge all our fellow, journos and broadcasters, who go above and beyond, the job. And, it's, like I said, it's a blessing to do the job. But there are very funny moments like that where, it is a bit different.
Yeah. Let's talk about your well-being. I mean, you talked about you do cycling and stuff, which is awesome. But I can imagine, especially with the kind of work and if you come across stories that are quite heavy, how do you still keep yourself together? What do you do outside personally to keep your well-being, mental health good?
Family, my faith, I even just take time off, just switch it off. Turn the phone off, and my other half always tells me, when you come home, there's no work here. You just don't even, and she works in media as well, so we try not to talk about work-related things. But family. My beliefs. I even take time off just to listen to Tongan music. Because it's time. Sometimes we consume too much. And, there's just overboard with so many things and, it might make someone go worried, where there's just too many things. But, I highly encourage people, sometimes it's good just to switch off your phone, even if you go without going on social media for a bit, which is good. But it's also my work as well to keep tabs on what's happening, in our community. So I do follow what's happening, using Facebook, Instagram, and whatnot. But I think, this is important. Our health is wealth. Going forward, we have to make sure that we're okay to continue being here and for our families as well. So, yeah. It's just a matter of sometimes you just switch it off, have a break, enjoy New Zealand. It's such a beautiful country, and spend time with your family and, whatever way you practice your faith and religion. But I love music as well. It's my also little getaway. I play my ukulele and I sing and, I get complaints from my family, but, so find something else that, you can just switch off. Because, as repeating myself again, because sometimes it can be a bit too much. In this digital time and age, there's just so many things, online and whatnot. But I think it's more important to just filter what you listen to and, just be more mindful of what you take. Because like you rightly said earlier, about, some of the information, there's too much, and make sure we get the reliable information.
Yeah, really good advice there, especially coming from someone who's always on media. Switching off your phone, being present with your...
It is hard.
It is hard. And spending time with family and loved ones and just being present. I really love that. Some great advice. And I think you and my dad will get along. He loves playing the ukulele. The man takes his ukulele everywhere.
Yes.
Birthdays. And no one asks us for the songs.
Yeah, that's
he just
me.
plays it. Yeah.
I just volunteer and they're like, but no one asks.
It's like, here's a special item that wasn't in the agenda, but here we go. But anyway, I love my dad. But
He's a good man.
There's something about music, especially for our people.
It's medicine to me. It's healing, when you've had like a long day or something, you just put on a good jam and it just escape for a bit. But I really, really love, the classics. I love the Tongan string band music and even a cappella music. Something about it, it's just like a spiritual healing like kind of thing, You listen to some of the old, back in the day before we had, instruments and whatnot, some of the a cappella music that was recorded in Tonga. Oh, it's just so beautiful. I love all the compositions by Her Majesty Queen Charlotte, Tupou III of Tonga, who was an amazing poet. And, been a big fan of all her poetry, because within those different types of music and compositions, there's bits of gold, you can learn from. And especially myself as a Tongan, I learn, lines. I'm like, oh, is that what that means? And good for me to, still maintain the language and whatnot. But yeah.
I love that. Spiritual healing. I love that. Music.
Oh, yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about your career as a journalist and, being in media? What are some tips and advice that you can give to people who are considering a career in media?
Do it for the right reason. I think you just got to put down your why. Why are you doing it? As I alluded to earlier, some may use it as a platform. It's like, I'm on TV and, people get to hear my voice. But I really encourage people, if they're in it for the right reason, where it's service, it's tautua, it's our way of serving our community via storytelling, filming, and it's not just people in front of the camera. I encourage people who are the camera people, the editors, the producers. So there is still a need for more to go into our industry. But if you're doing it for the right reasons, bless you. This is why you should be in this industry. Because, I know that some people want to, it's more for a self, agenda kind of thing. But use it for the right reasons. And, we're serving a great community.
Yeah, I love that. And you kept, I guess, touching on that time and time again throughout our conversation today. being anchored on your purpose and your why, and being grateful for that. And because no matter how hard something is, you always fall back onto why you're doing it in the first place. Right? And it feels like a calling for you.
I think it's my duty. Everyone has, a different set of skills. Yours is being good looking. Something that I didn't inherit.
My wife would differ. Carry on.
Something that I didn't inherit, the good looks department. But I think my purpose and my calling was to, use my voice, leo, and, use the platform, television, via media, and just being, out in the community to, inspire and, do our best to, bring in the young people to be proud of being Pasifika here in Aotearoa, being proud of being Pasifika in other parts of the world. Because, like I said, because so many of us are now not living on, in our beautiful paradise, we're now overseas. We have to make sure we hold on to it, and that's why I love being here in New Zealand. We're able to celebrate our language. We have schools that speak our languages. We have churches that use, our languages and practice our church, faith and beliefs from the islands. So we're very lucky here in New Zealand, and I just hope, people embrace that. And, now we're all intermarried, where there's not just the Tongan families, now Tongan Māori family, Samoa and, Tongan family. And, I hope people will always remember that. And I'm sure they won't, because like I said earlier, they'll never, lose their Pacificness if they live overseas. But important for our future generation to know that as well.
Yeah, especially, I speak from experience being first generation born here in New Zealand. My parents migrated here, and we try and preserve the culture as much as we can, learn from our parents, being immersed in the culture at church and that, or being around family, and obviously tuning into Tagata Pasifika as well and hearing those awesome stories, staying in touch.
But I think, Kaitaki, that's another important thing. Talk to our elders. They've been here longer than us. Learn from their stories, or, listen to their voice. And very grateful I have my mother, apart from her telling me off all the time. But it's important that, we have these generational conversations, sit down, with our elders and just tala noa and share, hey, what was it like in your time, I know that we're so busy, we're growing up, they're, growing up as well. They're getting older with respect. So it's good to have these moments, before it gets too late. We're like, oh, I wish I got to sit down with this elder and listen to their stories. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that one there, especially with the stories and the history, and we want to try and preserve that. We don't want them to go to the grave with all of that. And that's the legacy as well, and that's how we pass on, because those stories carry values, the culture, identity. Exactly. I love that. Such a good point. Look, John, we've come towards, nearing the end of our podcast, and we've learned so much.
I think we should record the interview now.
Yeah, let's maybe start hitting the record button now. That was a good warm-up. No, but seriously, you've just blessed us with so much about who you are, your journey, and also I love this passion that you have for Pasifika and culture and trying to preserve that. I love that, and it's people like you who are doing the great work in the space that you're in that help bless and lift our community. So thank you for the work that you do in your service. Likewise. But I guess just two final questions. My first one is, if we could wave a magic wand right now and you could change anything about media, especially in support for Pasifika, what would you change?
Keep us funded so we can keep working. There's a lot of change in our industry, I'm sure you may be aware of. So I just hope that we will be around, for the next 10, 20 years. The program Tagata Pasifika and Radio 531 are flagship Pan-Pacific programs. And over the years, there's, as Journey in the Ocean, there's some big waves that come, but we've been able to, stay, in it. But I just hope that we continue to have the program or have more Pasifika, have more representation, not just in our program, but maybe more in mainstream media, that we're able to show a true reflection of New Zealand. So if that wand was here, please keep us here for, going forward.
Well, there you go, our listeners. Funding. Let's come together as a community and try and keep Tagata Pasifika going, because it is actually doing so much for our community. So, and that's what we need to do as part of our values. But I guess the final question is, speaking to our audience, any last words of encouragement or inspiration that you'd love to leave with us?
It's just being proud of who they are. People come with different set of skills, and use it, embrace it. There are skills that I didn't have, others may have. Use that and, make a living out of it, where we see the different set of skills that we come with. We're all raised, typical Pacific. You either become a lawyer or a doctor, Not everyone has to fit into that box, be proud of the skill that God gave you and use that, and go with it. Some people, I guess, being young, they're afraid to go against, their family's wishes, of becoming this particular, but if your skills are in this line of work, do it and give it your best. I think just being proud of who you are and go for it.
I love it. Let's go for it. I love that. Some great last words of advice there. Be proud of who you are. Thank you so much again for your time, Toko. You've been just amazing and blessing us with your presence. We're better for it. So, malo pito, John Pulu.
Everybody. Malo. Thank you, sir.